Usually when we talk about history repeating itself, we're talking about stock market crashes or political empires rising and falling. We don't usually mean it quite this literally.
No, we don't. We tend to view time as a straight line,
Yeah.
right? Moving away from the past. But today is going to challenge that geometry entirely.
It really is. Zion Voice, specifically episode 27, The Giants Never Left.
Yeah.
And I have to say right off the bat, this isn't your standard tech review. It feels more like a spiritual detective story.
That is a perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
It's a detective story where the culprit has been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years.
The ancient biblical days of Noah and the modern cutting-edge rise of transhumanism. And that hook caught me immediately. What if what we think is new is not new at all? What if the world is not becoming something different, but returning to something that already was?
Yeah.
That gave me chills. I mean, it feels like the start of a sci-fi movie, but a very real warning.
It is a warning.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating here is between the genetic engineering and AI integration of today and the specific corruption that triggered the Great Flood in ancient texts.
Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. The days of Noah. I think most people, when they hear that, they picture a boat, a lot of rain, maybe a dove. We tend to think the reason for the flood was just people being mean to each other, violence, greed, bad behavior.
Right, just general human sin.
Yeah.
The corruption described in those ancient records, Genesis, and it alludes to extra-biblical texts like Enoch. It wasn't just behavioral. It was a corruption of nature itself.
A corruption of nature.
Yes. The boundaries between what was created and what was not meant to be were crossed.
What was not meant to be. That implies there were guardrails on reality that humanity or something else drove right through.
Correct. It speaks to a violation of the natural order, a mixing of kinds. And this is where we have to talk about the title, The Giants Never Left, because the result of that cross boundary was the giant.
The Nephilim, and there were giants in the earth in those days.
Exactly.
Now I have to play the skeptic for a second here, because giants sounds like folklore. It sounds like Jack and the Beanstalk. Or is this a metaphor?
Historical fact and a powerful symbol. But here is the nuance that answers your question about why giants. The giant represents a hybrid, a mixture.
A mixture.
Yeah, the ancient claim is that these beings were the result of a crossing of boundaries between the divine or the angelic and the human. It was an unauthorized mixture of different orders of creation.
So the sin wasn't just that they were big and scary. It was that they were biological anomalies.
Biological and ontological. They were an attempt to upgrade humanity by mixing it with something higher. And the result wasn't a better human. It was chaos. It was a corruption of the flesh.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bridge here. If the giant is a symbol of unauthorized mixture of trying to upgrade the human operating system by introducing foreign code, that leads us directly to the modern parallel. What if the giant never truly left? What if it just changed its form?
That's the pivot point, ancient hybridity to the modern transhumanist movement.
Let's define that for the listeners, because transhumanism gets thrown around a lot. We're talking about the idea that we can and should use technology to enhance the human condition.
Right.
Beyond just curing disease, but actually augmenting intelligence, extending lifespan,
Right.
maybe even merging with AI.
Correct. It's the belief that humanity is not a finished product, but a work in progress, that we are responsible for finishing. We view it as evolution. We went from fire to electricity to the internet, and now we go from human to post-human.
But this is pumping the brakes hard on that narrative.
Hard. It reframes evolution as recurrence, enhanced intelligence, augmented bodies, altered DNA. As we have seen this before, this isn't progress. It's the days of Noah all over again.
That's a heavy accusation. I mean, is it fair to compare, say, a pacemaker or gene therapy for sickle cell anemia to ancient monsters?
Right.
'Cause I like my antibiotics,
That's a crucial distinction. It doesn't seem to be attacking restorative medicine, fixing what is broken to return it to a healthy human baseline. It's attacking the alteration of the design itself, the goal of becoming like God. What happens when humanity begins to change what it was designed to be? It's the shift from healing the body to rewriting the human code.
Wow.
That when we try to transcend our humanity through engineering, we aren't ascending, we are trespassing.
Trespassing, that implies there is private property we are breaking into.
Or a design we are violating. This brings us to the philosophical anchor of the whole piece, the divine signature.
I loved that image. It describes humans as being more than flesh or thought or code. It says we have a signature or an imprint.
It does. The argument is that humans are not just a collection of cells or a random evolutionary outcome. We are engineered. We have a source code. There's a design that reflects its creator.
So if you accept that premise, that we are a signed piece of art effectively, then painting over the signature isn't an improvement. It's vandalism.
That is exactly the metaphor it uses. There is a sanctity to the human limit. We tend to view our limitations, mortality, limited processing power, physical frailty, as bugs in the system, things to be patched out.
Right. I mean, who wants to get old? Who wants to forget names? We market these things as failures.
Exactly. Because those limitations are actually guardrails. They keep us in alignment with our created purpose. When we try to remove them, when we try to engineer our own immortality, we create a dissonance. We create a mixture that the soul rejects.
Mixture. That word keeps coming up.
It's the key to the whole argument. The ancient world mixed the human and the angelic or divine. The modern world is mixing the human and the machine or synthetic. The ingredients are different, but the recipe and the result is the same. A giant, a corruption of nature.
So the giant today isn't a 50-foot guy with a club. The giant is Neuralink. The giant is a designer baby.
The giant is the result of that technology. It's the entity that is no longer fully human. By chasing this upgrade, we are actually creating something monstrous, even if it looks sleek and efficient.
The human reaction to this shift. It's not excitement. It's a feeling of emptiness, confusion.
A quiet sense that something is missing.
We've all felt that. You can have the smartest phone, the fastest connection, access to all the world's knowledge in your pocket, and yet you feel hollow. You feel restless.
The mind becomes restless. The spirit feels distant.
And usually the tech companies tell us the solution to that restlessness is more tech. You're anxious, here's a biofeedback app to regulate your breathing.
Emptiness isn't a lack of data. It's a lack of alignment. We are trying to use a digital patch for a spiritual wound.
There's this quote I highlighted that really struck me. Eternity was never meant to be manufactured. It was meant to be returned to.
It's a powerful distinction. Manufactured versus returned to. One is active, us trying to play God effectively. The other is surrender or alignment.
Wait, say more about that. Why would we try to manufacture eternity if we don't believe in it?
This desire for immortality, the drive behind transhumanism, is actually a misplaced instinct. Maybe a reflection of something deeper, a memory of eternity.
Oh, wow. So we remember eternity deep down, so we try to build it here.
Yes. We are trying to engineer what we were actually designed to inherit. We want to live forever, so we try to upload our brains to the cloud. It's a trap. That's manufactured immortality. It's a counterfeit.
The counterfeit heaven.
Exactly. And because it's counterfeit, it can never satisfy that divine signature inside us. That's why we feel the restlessness, that bad feeling, that anxiety. What if that feeling is not weakness, but a signal, a check engine light?
Right. If your dashboard lights up, you don't smash the dashboard. You check the engine. You don't take a pill to make the light go away. You look at what's wrong under the hood.
Exactly. Listen to that signal. It is calling you back to alignment, back to connection.
Back to Yahweh.
Yes. The antidote to the giant, the antidote to this technological corruption, is a return to the specific creator named in those ancient texts.
This brings us back to that idea of the days of Noah. Even back then, amidst all the corruption and the giants and the craziness, there were people who didn't go along with it.
The remnant. And as it was in the days of Noah, a time of confusion, a time of mixture. And yet even in that time, there was a remnant.
A remnant. The leftovers, or the holdouts.
The holdouts, those who remained aligned, those who remained connected, refusing to let your nature be corrupted.
That's counterintuitive. We're trained to think that resistance means fighting back against the system, but here, the resistance is just staying human, staying connected to God.
That's the most radical act in this narrative.
Yeah.
In a world that is obsessed with becoming something different, the most rebellious thing you can do is return to something that already was.
That's deep. It really flips the script on what it means to be forward-thinking. Moving forward into this transhumanist future is actually moving backward into chaos. Staying with the ancient design is the only safety.
Correct. You are not here by accident. You are not without design.
In a world of AI and algorithms where you can feel like just a data point or just a user ID,
no matter what shifts around you, no matter how many giants appear or how much the world changes, the most important connection will always be the one within you.
the one that leads you back to Yahweh.
Yes. The answer isn't a new chip, a new drug, or a new political system. The answer was never outside of you. It was always within.
It's a very grounding message in a way, but also it draws a line in the sand. You're either part of the mixture, the corruption, the engineering of a new humanity, or you're part of the remnant that stays aligned with the original design.
And that's the corruption of nature argument coming full circle. If the ancient sin was mixing what shouldn't be mixed, The modern solution is maintaining the purity of the design. It's rejecting the manufactured for the created. It's not saying technology is evil. It's saying unauthorized mixture is fatal. It's a call for discernment.
Discernment regarding what we let into our nature.
Right. When a new technology emerges, especially one that touches the body or the mind, we need to ask, is this a tool I am using? Or is this a modification that is using me? Is this helping me fulfill my human purpose? Or is it trying to replace my human purpose?
It's about recognizing the pattern, seeing the giant when it shows up in a lab coat or a press release.
Exactly. Recognizing that the promise of becoming like gods, which is essentially the transhumanist promise, is the oldest trick in the book. The only way to avoid being swept up in that confusion is to listen to that signal, that restlessness.
And instead of trying to silence it, follow it back to the source.
To the true source, Yahweh.
You know, it's funny. We started this talking about ancient history and giants, and we ended up talking about the most futuristic tech imaginable, and somehow they are the same conversation.
The human struggle hasn't changed. The scenery has changed. The tools have changed. But the fundamental choice between trusting our own engineering or trusting our creator remains exactly the same.
It reminds me of that ship of Theseus paradox. If you replace every plank of a ship, is it still the same ship? If you replace your biology, your neurology, and your genetic code, are you still you? Or have you become the giant?
That's the haunting question. Many people won't even notice the shift. They'll just accept the convenience. They'll accept the mixture because it's sold as progress.
The giants never left. It's not just a catchy title, it's a warning.
And a call to action, to be the remnant.
It really makes you think about what you're chasing. Are we chasing a manufactured version of eternity because we've forgotten the real one?
That's the critical question.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the corruption of nature in the days of Noah to the modern merging of biology and tech, and finally to that concept of the divine signature.
It's a dense text, but the message is clear. The world is noisy, technology is flashy, and the pressure to evolve is immense. The truth isn't out there in the cloud or in the lab.
It's in the design, it's in the alignment.
It is.
So here's a thought to leave you with. We've talked about how manufacturing eternity is a trap, but think about the digital footprints we leave behind. What if the very things we are building to secure our future are the exact things erasing our presence in the present? If that restlessness you feel, that late-night anxiety, that sense that something is missing, if that isn't a flaw in your brain chemistry, but a callback, what happens if you stop looking forward for answers?
What happens if you stop checking the feed for a solution and start listening to the signal?
What happens if you look inward? Because if the giants never left, maybe the solution never left either.
It's always been there.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Listen to the signal. We'll see you next time.